Guy arrives late to interview after helping girl. Little did he know she was the company owner's daughter. Michael Thompson was running down Fifth Avenue with his heart pounding, breaking out in a cold sweat despite the strong March sun. He had lost his job as an IT technician 3 months ago, and this was his last chance before the bills piled up for good. That's when he heard the desperate crying coming from the sidewalk. Turning his head, he saw a blonde girl about 8 years old, wearing a navy blue school uniform, crying beside a white bicycle that had fallen to the ground. The handlebars were bent and the chain had come off. Michael looked at his wristwatch. He had exactly 15 minutes until his interview at Wilson Harris Construction, one of the largest engineering firms in New York City. 3 years looking for an opportunity at that company, and now he had finally gotten a chance. But something about that child's desperation made his feet stop moving. "Hey, what happened?" he asked, approaching the girl. She lifted her tear-streaked face. She had blue eyes like the sky and freckles scattered across her nose. "My bicycle broke and I'm going to be late for school," she sobbed. "Aunt Sarah is going to be mad at me again." Michael looked around. Dozens of people were rushing by, nobody caring about the situation. He himself should have been running at that moment. "It's okay. Let's see what we can do," he said, taking his backpack off his shoulders. The girl watched him hopefully as he knelt beside the bicycle. Michael had always been good with his hands, a legacy from his father who worked as a mechanic in rural Kentucky before coming to try his luck in New York City. "What's your name?" he asked, starting to examine the problem. "Emily. Emily Wilson. And you?" "Michael. You can call me Mike." He noticed that the chain wasn't just off track but had gotten tangled in a complicated way around the pedals. The handlebars also needed readjusting. It would be at least a 20-minute job. His phone rang. It was an unknown number. "Hello? Michael Thompson? This is Pamela, from the reception at Wilson Harris Construction. Are you on your way?" "You have 10 minutes until your interview." Michael felt his stomach drop. He looked at Emily, who was watching him with still damp eyes. "Yes, I'm stuck in traffic. An accident on Fifth Avenue." He lied, feeling terrible about it. "All right, but try not to be too late. Mr. Wilson is very strict about punctuality." "Don't worry, thank you." He hung up and turned his attention back to the bicycle. Emily had sat down on the sidewalk, watching his every move. "Why did you stop to help me?" the girl asked. "Everyone always just rushes by." Michael paused his work and looked at her. It was a pretty deep question for an 8-year-old. "Because sometimes we need to do what's right, even when it's hard. My dad always says that too, but he's always too busy to talk to me." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to leave a like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing, Michael kept working on the chain while Emily talked. He discovered she lived only with her father and a nanny named Sarah, since her mother had left when she was very little. Her father worked a lot and rarely got home before 10 at night. "Is he important?" asked Michael, trying to untangle the chain. "I think so. He has a big company and lots of people work for him, but I'd rather he was less important and spent more time with me." The girl's sincerity touched Michael's heart. He himself had grown up without much time with his father, who worked hard to support the family. "I'm sure your father loves you very much," he said. "Sometimes adults get so lost in work they forget what's truly important." "Do you have children?" "No, I haven't even managed to get a proper job yet," he replied, more to himself than to her. He finally managed to put the chain back in place. Now he needed to adjust the handlebars. He looked at his watch again. He was already 5 minutes late. 2 men in suits ran past toward Wilson Harris Construction. Michael recognized them from the waiting room of other interviews. They were his direct competitors for the position. "Are you okay?" asked Emily, noticing his tense expression. "I'm fine, just worried about something important I have to do." "More important than helping me?" Michael stopped and looked at her. The question was innocent, but carried enormous weight. "No," he answered, smiling for the first time that day. "Nothing is more important than helping you right now." He continued working on the handlebars with more determination. Emily stood up and stayed beside him, holding some small tools he carried in his backpack. "My teacher asked us to do a project about heroes," said Emily. "I chose Superman, but now I think I'll change it." Why? Because real heroes exist. They're right here on the street, helping people. Michael felt a lump in his throat. It had been a long time since someone saw him as anything other than a failed, unemployed man. His cell phone rang again. This time it was a number he recognized. His mother. "Hi, Mom." "Michael, how was the interview? I'm praying here that everything works out." He looked at Emily, who was now smiling as she watched the nearly finished bicycle. "I'm still on my way, Mom. I had an unexpected situation." "What kind of situation? You can't be late, my son. This is your chance." "I know, Mom, but I'm doing the right thing. Michael." "Mom, trust me. I have to hang up now." He went back to working on the bicycle. Emily started talking about school, her classmates, and how excited she was to present her hero project that day. "If I'm late, the teacher will take points off, and if I lose too many points, I'll have to repeat the year." "That won't happen," said Michael, finishing adjusting the handlebars. "All done. Let's test it." He helped Emily get on the bicycle. She took a few experimental pedals and smiled radiantly. "It worked. Thank you so much, Mike." Michael smiled back, but when Emily tried to speed away, the front wheel made a strange noise, and she lost her balance, falling to the ground. "Ow!" she cried, holding her ankle. Michael ran to her. Emily was crying again, but this time from pain. "Let me see," he said, kneeling beside her. The ankle was swollen. It didn't look broken, but definitely sprained. "I can't put my foot down," cried Emily. Michael looked around desperately. The school was at least 8 blocks away. There was no time to call anyone. Without thinking twice, he helped Emily climb onto the bike's back rack and began pedaling toward the school. The sun was strong, and Michael felt sweat running down his back as he pedaled as fast as he could through the busy streets of New York City. Emily held firmly onto his waist, giving directions to get to the school. "It's right there," she shouted, pointing to a yellow building with a green gate. Michael pedaled to the school entrance and helped Emily down. She was limping, but could walk. "Thank you so much, Mike. You saved my day," she said, hugging him tightly. "You're welcome, Emily. Now go present that project about heroes." "Can I talk about you?" Michael smiled, feeling both proud and devastated. He had missed the interview of a lifetime to help a child he barely knew. "Yes, you can. But remember, what matters isn't being a hero, it's doing what's right." Emily waved to him as she entered the school. Michael got on the bicycle and began pedaling back, more slowly now. He looked at his watch. He was 40 minutes late. Even so, he decided to go to the company. Maybe there was still a chance, even if a small one. He arrived at Wilson Harris Construction, sweaty, with wrinkled clothes stained with grease from his hands. The doorman looked at him suspiciously. "I'm here for an interview. Michael Thompson." "You're very late. I think they already cancelled your spot." Michael felt his world collapse. 3 years waiting for that opportunity, and he had thrown it all away. "Can I at least try to talk to someone?" The doorman made a call, and to Michael's surprise told him to go up to the 12th floor. In the elevator, Michael tried to tidy himself up as best he could. He wiped his hands on his shirt and ran his fingers through his hair. He knew his appearance was terrible, but he had to try. The reception on the 12th floor was luxurious. White marble, large plants, and an impressive view of the city. The receptionist, a middle-aged woman with a professional smile, greeted him. "Michael Thompson." "Yes, I know I'm late, but if there's any chance..." "I'm sorry, but the position has already been filled. Mr. Wilson doesn't tolerate lateness." Michael felt his legs wobble. He sat in a leather armchair trying to process yet another defeat in his life. He had been there for a few minutes when he heard a familiar voice shouting in the hallway. "Mike! Mike!" He turned and saw Emily running toward him, still limping slightly. She was accompanied by an elegant woman around 50 years old, with graying hair pulled into an impeccable bun, wearing a navy blue suit. "Emily, what are you doing here?" "I came to find you. You forgot this," she said, handing him his wallet, which had fallen when he helped her off the bike. The company security guard tried to intercept Emily, but she ran right past him. "Young lady, you can't be here. This is a private company." "But I need to talk to the hero guy," shouted Emily. The elegant woman accompanying her approached, with a curious gaze fixed on Michael. "Excuse me, are you the Michael who helped Emily this morning?" "Yes, ma'am, sorry for the mess. She forgot my wallet at school and—" "No need to apologize. I'm Sarah Johnson, the Human Resources Director of this company. Emily told me everything about what you did for her." Michael was confused. How did Emily know the HR Director of the company? "I don't understand." "Emily is, let's say, a very special person to our company," said Sarah with a mysterious smile. "How about we talk in private?" Michael looked at Emily, who was beaming. "Mike is a real hero, Aunt Sarah. He lost something very important to help me." Sarah took Michael to an elegant meeting room with a varnished wooden table and leather chairs. Through the huge windows you could see the bustle of Fifth Avenue. "Emily told me you were late for an interview because of her," said Sarah, sitting across from him. "It was my choice," replied Michael. "She needed help." "Even knowing you could lose an important opportunity?" "Even so." Sarah watched him silently for a few seconds. Her eyes seemed to assess every expression, every gesture. "You know, Michael, our company is going through a transformation. We're looking for people with solid values, not just technical competence." "I have technical competence too," said Michael, trying not to sound desperate. "I'm sure you do, but most importantly, you have something you can't teach in college, character." Sarah stood up and went to the window. "What do you know about corporate social responsibility?" "Well, I know many companies invest in community projects, education, that kind of thing." "Exactly. And our company is launching a pilot project in that area. We need someone to coordinate initiatives that connect the company with the local community." Michael felt his heart race. Could it be possible? "I would be very interested in learning more about that. First, I need you to meet some people." Sarah took him to another room, where 3 men in suits were sitting around a meeting table. Michael recognized one of them. It was the man he had seen running to the company earlier. "Gentlemen, this is Michael Thompson. Michael, these are Richard Clark, our operations director, Robert Harris, financial director, and Daniel Brooks, who, like you, was competing for the IT technician position." Michael greeted everyone, feeling out of place among these clearly successful men. "So you're the famous Michael who made our little Emily miss her school presentation," said Richard, with a tone Michael couldn't decipher. "Actually, she didn't miss it. I got there in time to take her to school." "Oh yes, after fixing the bicycle and everything," Richard continued. "Must have been quite the effort." Michael began to feel uncomfortable. It seemed like he was being tested in some way. It was, but it was worth it. Robert Harris leaned forward. "Michael, how would you handle a situation where you had a very tight deadline and an unexpected issue came up that demanded your attention?" The question was clearly a test related to what had happened with Emily. "It depends on the issue," Michael replied, thinking carefully. "If it was something where I could truly make a difference in someone's life, especially a child's, I would do the same as I did today. Even if it meant missing an important commitment. Deadlines are important, but people come first." Daniel Brooks, the man who had run to make it to the interview, shook his head in disapproval. "With all due respect, that attitude is very romantic, but the business world is pragmatic. Commitments are commitments." "And if it was your daughter asking for help?" Michael asked, looking directly at Daniel. The question created an uncomfortable silence in the room. "Well, that would be different." "Why would it be different? Every child is someone's daughter." Sarah watched the exchange with interest, without interfering. Richard spoke again. "Michael, do you have experience in project management?" "Not formally, but I've coordinated some volunteer initiatives in my community. I helped organize a book drive for a community library and coordinated neighborhood cleanup efforts in the town square." "Nothing very technical then," commented Robert Harris. "Perhaps not in the corporate sense, but I've learned that the hardest part isn't the technical aspect, it's getting people to work together for a common goal." The tension in the room was palpable. Michael felt he was being judged for every word, every answer. That's when the door opened and everyone immediately stood up. A man about 45 years old entered, with graying hair at his temples, wearing an impeccable suit. He had a commanding presence that immediately filled the room. "Sorry for the delay, gentlemen. I had to pick up my daughter from school," the man said, and Michael felt something familiar in his voice. It was then that Emily appeared behind him, running to hug Michael. "Mike, you're still here." The silence that followed was deafening. Michael looked from the man to Emily, trying to process what was happening. "Daddy, this is the Mike I told you about, the hero who helped me today." The man looked at Michael with an unreadable expression. Michael felt his legs go weak. "William Wilson," said the man, extending his hand. "I'm the president of this company, and Emily's father. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing." Michael shook William's hand, feeling completely lost. Everything was starting to make sense. Emily Wilson, Wilson Harris Construction, how easily she had gotten there. "Pleasure to meet you, sir," he managed to say. "Emily hasn't stopped talking about you since she got home from school. She said you're a real hero. I just helped her with her bicycle. And you were late for an important interview because of it," added William, sitting at the head of the table. Emily settled into a chair next to her father, swinging her legs and smiling at Michael. "Daddy, can I tell Mike about my school project?" "Of course, sweetheart." Emily turned to Michael, her eyes shining with excitement. "I did the project about you. I told my teacher that real heroes don't wear capes. They wear beanies and get grease stains on their clothes while helping people." Michael felt a lump in his throat. He looked at William, who was watching his daughter with an expression that mixed pride and something that seemed like remorse. "Emily, how about you go with Aunt Sarah to get something to eat while I talk with Michael? Can I stay? I promise I'll be really quiet." "You'd better go, princess. Grown-up talk is boring." Emily gave her father a kiss and another to Michael before leaving with Sarah. "Gentlemen, if you'll excuse us," said William to the other men. Richard, Robert, and Daniel left the room, leaving Michael alone with the company president. William remained silent for a few moments, looking out the window. "Emily told me you lied to the receptionist about being stuck in traffic." Michael felt his face burn with shame. "That's true. I feel terrible about it. I never lie, but you didn't want to abandon a child in trouble." "Exactly." William turned to him. "You know, Michael, Emily also told me you said that nothing was more important than helping her at that moment." "I did say that." "When was the last time someone said that about my daughter?" The question caught Michael off guard. "Sir, when was the last time someone put my daughter first above appointments, money, or anything else?" Michael noticed the pain in William's voice. "I don't know, sir." "Neither do I," admitted William, sitting down heavily in his chair. "Do you know how many times she's asked me if I could pick her up from school this year?" "I have no idea." 62 times. She counts every request I deny. "And do you know how many times I said yes?" Michael shook his head. Today was the first. Silence stretched between them. Michael didn't know what to say. "Emily told me you talked about parents who get lost in work and forget what's really important. I'm sorry if I was out of line." "You weren't out of line, you were honest, and it's been a long time since anyone's been honest with me." William stood up and went to a bookshelf where there were several photos of Emily at different ages. "My wife, Emily's mother, left us 3 years ago. She didn't pass away. She simply decided our life wasn't what she wanted." Michael didn't know how to react to this confession. That must have been very difficult. It was. And instead of getting closer to Emily, I buried myself even deeper in work. I thought that by building a financial empire I would be securing her future, but I forgot about the present. William picked up a photo where Emily, very small, was in his arms on a beach. She was 3 years old here. We spent a whole week together, just the two of us. It was the last time we did that. "There's still time to do it again," said Michael, surprising himself with his own courage. "You think so?" "I'm sure. She loves you. I can see it in her eyes when she talks about you." William sat down again, but this time he seemed more relaxed. "Michael, can I ask you a personal question?" "Of course." "Why did you stop to help Emily? The truth." Michael thought for a moment. "Because when I was a child, my father worked a lot and was almost never home. One day I was coming back from school and my bicycle broke down. I sat on the sidewalk for 2 hours waiting for someone to help me. Nobody stopped. And what happened? My father came home and didn't even notice I was late. I had fixed the bicycle myself as best I could, and my hands were all scraped up. When he saw, he just said I should be more careful. I understand. When I saw Emily in that situation, it was like looking at myself. And I thought, what difference would it make if one person stopped to help? Maybe it would make all the difference in the world. William watched Michael for a long moment. Do you really want this job? Of course I do. I've been unemployed for 3 months. I need to work. But not out of pity or nepotism. Never. If you give me a chance, it will be because I deserve it. And I'll prove it through hard work. William smiled for the first time since he had entered the room. Michael, I didn't bring you here to give you the IT technician job. Michael's heart started racing. Was he not getting hired? I brought you here to offer you something very different. What do you mean? Our company is launching a social responsibility program. We want to connect our resources with the needs of the community. Educational projects, support for families in need, initiatives that truly make a difference in people's lives. Michael kept listening, not understanding where this was going. The problem is that all the candidates we've interviewed to coordinate this program talk a good game about social responsibility, but they only think about numbers, reports, and corporate results. And what does that have to do with me? You proved today that you understand what really matters, that you can see a person in need and take action even when it costs you something important. Michael felt like he was dreaming. I'm offering you the overall coordination of our social responsibility program. Starting salary of 12,000 Rs, full health plan, profit sharing, and more importantly, the chance to truly make a difference in people's lives. Michael was speechless. It was more than he had ever dreamed of. But I don't have any corporate experience in social responsibility. You have something much more valuable. You genuinely care about people. The rest we can teach you. I don't know what to say. How about starting with a yes or no? Michael smiled, feeling tears well up in his eyes. Yes. Definitely, yes. William stood up and extended his hand. Welcome to the team, Michael. You start on Monday. As they shook hands, Emily opened the door and ran into the room. Is Mike going to work with us, Daddy? Yes, he is, Princess. Yay! Now you can have lunch with us sometimes. William looked at his daughter, then at Michael. You know what, Emily? How about if I start picking you up from school more often? Emily's eyes lit up. Really, Daddy, you promise? And I promise. And you know what else? How about we schedule that trip to the zoo you're always asking about? Emily jumped for joy and hugged her father tightly. Thank you, Mike. You really are a hero. Michael watched father and daughter embracing and felt a satisfaction he had never experienced before. He had gotten much more than a job. He had helped reconnect a family. Sarah came back into the room with papers for Michael to sign. I need to confess something, she said, smiling. William asked me to observe everything that happened today. The way you interacted with Emily, your answers to the questions, it was all part of an evaluation. Michael was surprised. What do you mean? William wanted to be sure you were really the person Emily had described, so he asked me to test your character in several ways. So you knew I was going to help Emily? No, said William. That was completely spontaneous. Emily actually broke the bicycle on her way to school. What we tested was everything that came after. Whether you would stick to your story, if you would try to take advantage of the situation, if you would show humility or arrogance. And did I pass the test? With flying colors, replied Sarah, especially when you refused to accept the job if it was due to nepotism. That really impressed William. Michael shook his head, still processing everything. One last question, said William. Do you really believe you can make a difference in people's lives through this work? I do, and I will dedicate every day to proving it. Then let's begin. Emily, why don't you show Michael where his new office is? Emily took Michael by the hand and led him down an elegant hallway to a spacious room with a view of the city. There was a modern desk, a new computer, and a small bookshelf with books on social management and community development. This room has been empty for months, explained Emily. Dad said he was waiting for the right person to occupy it. Michael looked out the window and saw Emily's school in the distance. He thought of all the unemployed people who passed by that avenue every day, looking for an opportunity. He thought of how many families were struggling at that very moment, and for the first time in months, he felt he could actually do something about it. 2 weeks later, Michael was completely settled into his new routine. He spent his days developing projects, visiting underprivileged communities, and meeting local leaders who could become partners for the company. William had kept his promise to pick up Emily from school at least twice a week, and on Fridays, Michael joined them for lunch, where Emily always excitedly talked about the projects Michael was developing. Mike is helping build a sports court in the Hope Village community, Emily shared during one of these lunches. "And how is the project going?" asked William. "Better than we expected. The community has organized itself and is providing volunteer labor. We're contributing materials and technical supervision. The court will be ready in a month." "And the library project?" "We've already got the partnership with the city approved. We're going to renovate the old Borough Hall building and turn it into a community library with space for after-school tutoring." Emily listened carefully. "Can I help with the projects, Mike?" "Of course you can. In fact, I'm thinking of creating a specific program for children. How about if we organize a children's book donation drive?" Emily's eyes lit up. "Can I talk about it at my school?" "That would be perfect." William watched the interaction between Michael and Emily with a smile on his face. In 2 weeks, Michael had become a constant positive presence in his daughter's life, and best of all, he had helped William rediscover the importance of being present. "Michael, how are the board approvals coming for the next projects?" "Moving along well. Richard still has some reservations, mainly regarding costs, but Robert is being very supportive after visiting Hope Village with me." "And Daniel?" Michael hesitated a bit. "Daniel still thinks we should focus more on projects that generate visibility for the company. He suggested sponsoring sporting events instead of building community courts." "What did you say?" "That visibility is a consequence, not an objective. If we do truly good work, recognition comes naturally." William nodded in approval. "And personally, how are you settling in?" "Very well. I never thought working for a big company could be so human." "How so?" "I always imagined companies like this only cared about profit, but you all genuinely want to make a difference." That changed my perspective on a lot of things. Emily, who had finished eating, stood up. "Can I go play in the break room?" "Yes, Princess. But don't touch the computers." When Emily left, William got more serious. "Michael, can I tell you something personal?" "Of course." "When Emily's mother left, she told me I had become an empty person, that I only knew how to talk about work and money." Michael didn't know how to respond. "At the time, I got very angry. I thought she was being unfair. After all, I worked so hard to give the best to our family." "And today?" "Today I understand she was right. I had lost the ability to see beyond business until Emily asked me about you." "How so?" "When she came home from school talking about the hero who lost something important to help her, I realized it had been a long time since anyone in our life made choices based on what was right, not what was convenient." William paused, looking in the direction where Emily had gone. "You didn't just change my company, Michael. You changed my family. I only did what anyone would do. No, anyone would have gone to the interview. You made a conscious choice to put someone else first, and that has made me reflect on all my choices." Michael felt touched by William's sincerity. "You're a good father, William. Emily loves you. I'm trying to be better, and having you here constantly reminds me of what's truly important." At that moment, Emily came running back. "Daddy, Mike, come see. There's a rainbow outside." The two men stood up and went to the window. Indeed, a perfect rainbow was forming over the city after a quick rain. "It's beautiful," said Emily, holding both their hands. Michael looked at the rainbow and thought about how his life had completely changed in just 2 weeks, from a desperate unemployed man to coordinator of a program that truly made a difference. And more importantly, he had become part of a family that had lost its way and was finding itself again. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out now continuing. A month later, the sports court at Hope Village was ready. Michael had organized an opening event with many children from the community, their parents and company representatives. William arrived accompanied by Emily, who was wearing a project t-shirt and carrying a soccer ball. "Mike, the court turned out beautiful," shouted Emily, running to him. "Do you like it? The community children helped choose the colors." The court was painted green and yellow, with colorful drawings on the sides made by the neighborhood children themselves. Mrs. Rodriguez, community leader of Hope Village, approached Michael. "I have no words to thank you, my dear. We've been dreaming of this for 10 years. "No need to thank me, Mrs. Rodriguez. Now just take good care of it and enjoy it. You can be sure we will. We've already organized tournaments for all ages." William watched Michael interacting with the community people. There was a naturalness there that no corporate training could ever teach. "Dad," said Emily, pulling his shirt, "can I play soccer with the other children?" "Of course, Princess, but be careful not to get hurt." Emily ran to join a group of children starting a game. William watched from afar, smiling to see his daughter interacting with children from realities completely different from her own. "She's happy," commented Michael, coming to his side. "Happier than I've seen her in a long time. And do you know why?" "Why?" "Because she finally sees her father doing something that goes beyond money, something that truly matters." Michael watched Emily laughing as she ran after the ball. "William, can I ask you a personal question?" "Of course." "Do you regret the life you've built? The company, the financial success?" William thought for a moment. "I don't regret what I built. I regret what I failed to build in the process." "What do you mean?" "I built a solid company, but I almost lost my daughter. I built wealth, but I almost forgot about the wealth of relationships." They were interrupted by Richard Clark, who arrived at the event visibly upset. "William, I need to speak with you." "Not now, Richard. We're at a celebration." "It's about this project's costs. They've exceeded the budget by 20%. Mike stepped in. "Actually, Richard, the budget was met exactly. What happened is that the community offered improvements that weren't initially planned, like the artistic painting and the lighting system. Improvements that cost 20% more. Improvements that were funded by the community itself through raffles and events. They didn't cost the company anything." Richard was speechless for a moment. "Even so, you should have communicated before making changes," William intervened. "Richard, look around. Look at these children playing. Look at the happiness of these families. That's priceless." "William, with all due respect, we can't run a company based on feelings." "And who said we're doing that?" asked Mike. "Our projects have clear objectives, performance metrics, and strict accountability." "But, Richard," William interrupted, "do you have children?" "I do, too." "Do they know what you do at work?" "Of course. They know I work at a construction company." "And does that make them proud?" Richard hesitated. "I imagine so." "Imagine or know for sure? When was the last time they showed pride in your work?" The question made Richard uncomfortable. "William, I don't see the connection." "The connection is simple. My daughter now sees me as someone who makes a difference in the world, not just as someone who makes money." Emily came running up to them, sweaty and smiling. "Dad, did you see? I scored 3 goals." "I did see, champ. You were great." "Mike, can you come play with us?" "Of course. Just let me take off my shoe." Mike took off his dress shoes and ran onto the court barefoot, joining the group of children. Within minutes, he was laughing and playing as if he were one of them. Richard watched the scene with a confused expression. "William, I don't understand how a project coordinator can behave like that. Where's the professional demeanor?" "The professional demeanor is right there, Richard. It's in how he genuinely connects with the people our projects serve. But that's not corporate. And thank God it's not. Do you know what our biggest mistake was for years? Trying to do social responsibility in a corporate way. Meetings, reports, photos for publicity, but zero real connection with people." William pointed to Mike, who was now teaching a younger child how to kick the ball. "That man understands that social responsibility isn't a marketing strategy. It's genuinely caring about others." Richard fell silent watching. "And the financial results? How do we justify this to shareholders?" "The results will come, Richard. But they'll come the right way. When a company truly makes a difference in the community gives back. How so? 3 local companies have already approached our construction company for partnerships after learning about our work here. 2 large contracts we wouldn't have gotten with technical proposals alone. Richard looked surprised. You didn't tell me that. Because I don't want people to see social responsibility as a sales tool. I want them to see it for what it is, our obligation as a company that's part of this society. At that moment, Mrs. Rodriguez approached with a group of mothers from the community. Mr. Wilson, we wanted to talk to you about something. Go ahead, Mrs. Rodriguez. We know you're always looking for people to work at the company. We have some young folks here in the community who are very hard-working. Couldn't you find something for them? William looked at Richard, who seemed uncomfortable. Mrs. Rodriguez, I'll have Michael talk to you about this. He knows our hiring process is better. Michael is an angel, Mr. Wilson. He treated us like family from day one. When the women walked away, Richard commented, William, you can't promise jobs to people from the community. We have processes, technical qualifications. Richard, I didn't promise anything. I said we'll talk. But what if they're not qualified? Then we'll qualify them. How about creating a professional training program? That wasn't in the social responsibility budget. Michael approached, having heard part of the conversation. Actually, Richard, it was. The professional training program is one of our goals for the second half of the year. I don't remember approving that. Because you haven't approved it yet. It's in the proposal I presented last week that you said you'd review. Richard was clearly embarrassed. Oh yes, that document, I'm still reviewing it. No problem, but Mrs. Rodriguez is right. We have very talented young people here who just need an opportunity. William watched Michael defend the project with passion and technical knowledge. He had found the perfect combination, heart and competence. Emily came running back to them. Dad, the kids said they're having a tournament every Saturday. Can I come watch? Of course. Actually, how about if we come play too? You, me, and Michael. Really? You're going to play soccer, Dad? Why not? It should be fun. Richard shook his head in disapproval. William, do you realize how this will look? The company president playing soccer at a community court. What will it look like, Richard? It will look unprofessional, or it will look like I genuinely care about the community our company serves. Michael intervened diplomatically. Richard, may I suggest something? How about you come too one of these Saturdays? Get to know the community folks better, see up close how our projects work. I'm not sure I have time. Are you sure? I think it would really help you understand the actual impact of our work. William smiled, noticing Michael's strategy. Excellent idea, Michael. Richard, how about we come next Saturday? Richard was visibly cornered. All right, but only for a few hours. Perfect, said Emily, clapping her hands. I'll teach you how to play, Uncle Richard. Emily's innocence drew an involuntary smile from Richard. Okay, Emily, it'll be interesting. When the event ended and everyone was saying goodbye, Michael found himself alone with William for a few minutes. How would you assess these first few months? Asked William. Challenging, but very rewarding. I'm learning a lot about business management, but mainly about how to use company resources to really change lives. And personally? How's your life? Michael hesitated a bit. Can I be honest? Always. My life has completely changed. Financially, of course, but much more than that. For the first time, I feel useful, you know. Like my work has a real purpose. And your family? How do they see this change? My mother is proud. She always said I had potential, but I never had the chance to show it. Now she tells all the neighbors that her son works at a big company doing social projects. William smiled. And girlfriend? Emily always asks if you have a girlfriend. Michael laughed. I don't. To be honest, I was so focused on getting a job that I had no energy left for anything else. And now, who knows? Maybe there will come a time when I feel secure enough to think about that. Michael, can I give you some advice? Of course. Don't wait until you feel completely secure. Life happens while we're busy making other plans. That's a good philosophy. I learned it the hard way. I was so focused on building financial security that I almost lost everything that really mattered. Emily came running up to them. "Dad, Mike, can we go now? I'm hungry." "Yes, we can, Princess. How about we have dinner together tonight?" said William, looking at Michael. "That would be great, but let me stop by home to take a shower and change clothes." "Not at all. Let's go just as we are." Emily picks the restaurant. "Can I choose?" asked Emily excitedly. "You may." "Then I want to go to that pizza place with the clown." Michael and William looked at each other and laughed. "Pizza with a clown it is," said William. As they walked toward the car, Michael reflected on how his life had transformed. 6 months ago, he was unemployed, desperate, with no prospects. Today, he had a job he loved, was part of a family that had welcomed him, and for the first time in a long time, he was genuinely happy. The best part was that it had all started with a simple choice: stopping to help a child in need. At the pizza place, while Emily played in the children's area, William and Michael talked about upcoming projects. "I've been thinking of an idea," said Michael. "How about we create a mentorship program? How would it work? Company employees would adopt young people from the community as mentees, not just career guidance, but academic support, personal development." "Interesting. And how would we ensure our employees engage?" "By making it voluntary, but offering incentives, like a day off per month for participants or public recognition for the best mentors." William looked thoughtful. "Do you know what the biggest advantage of this program would be?" "What?" "Our employees would learn as much as the mentees, maybe more." "How so?" "Spending time with young people in vulnerable situations changes people's perspectives. It makes you appreciate what you have and understand your social responsibilities." Michael nodded. "Like what happened to me when I met Emily, it made me rethink my priorities." "Exactly. And if we can get more employees to have that experience, the whole company culture changes." Emily returned to the table, interrupting the conversation. "What are you talking about?" "About a new project Michael came up with," explained William. "What kind of project?" "A program where people from our company would help young people in the community with studies and advice for the future," said Michael. "Like how you helped me?" "Similar, but more organized and long-lasting." Emily looked thoughtful. "Can I make a suggestion?" "Of course," said William. "How about if the children could also teach things to the adults?" Michael and William looked at each other, surprised by the depth of the idea. "What do you think you could teach?" asked Michael. "Lots of things. How to be happy with little, how to make real friends, how to forgive when someone makes a mistake." The simplicity and wisdom of the answer left both men momentarily speechless. "You know what, Emily?" said William. "You just gave the smartest idea of the day." "Really?" "Really. The program won't just be mentorship, it will be an exchange, adults and young people learning from each other." Michael was impressed by how Emily had grasped something he hadn't noticed: the importance of reciprocity. "Emily, would you like to be our official consultant for the project?" joked Michael. "Can I? But I don't really know how to work yet." "You know the most important thing: understanding people." Emily's smile lit up the entire pizzeria. 2 weeks later, Michael was in his office preparing the mentorship program presentation for the board when there was a knock at the door. "Come in." It was Sarah from Human Resources. "Michael, can I talk to you?" "Of course, Sarah. Have a seat. I wanted to tell you something. Since you started working here, we've received more job applications from candidates wanting to work at the company than in all of last year." "Really? Why?" "Because the story of our social responsibility program has spread. People want to work for a company that truly cares about the community." Michael was surprised. "I had no idea our work had that kind of impact." "It does. And what's more, 3 of our biggest competitors approached me wanting to know how to implement similar programs." "What did you tell them?" "That they needed to find their own Michael," said Sarah, smiling. At that moment, William entered the room. "Michael, how's the preparation for the presentation coming along?" "Almost ready. I was just finishing the slides about the social return on investment." "Great. And Sarah, what brings you here?" "I was telling Michael about the increase in job applications to the company." "Ah, yes. Michael, have you seen the productivity numbers from the last 2 months?" "I have. They went up 12%. Do you know what we attribute that to? No idea. To employee motivation. When people feel they work for a company that makes a difference in the world, they try harder. Sarah added, and employee turnover has dropped to less than half. People don't want to leave anymore. Michael felt proud, but also humble in the face of those results. This is thanks to the whole team, not just me. It's thanks to the culture change you brought about, said William. And speaking of which, I need to tell you something. What is it? Richard approached me yesterday. Michael tensed up. Richard was still resistant to some projects. What did he say? That he wants to get more directly involved in the community projects. How so? Apparently, after that visit to the court, he went back there alone the following Saturday. He got to know the families better, talked to the young people. Michael was surprised. And he realized he was judging the program without really understanding it. Now he wants to help expand the projects. That's amazing. That's not all, William continued. He suggested we create a paid internship program for young people from the community. He himself will supervise the selection process. Sarah added, and Robert is proposing to create a special line of credit for small entrepreneurs in the communities where we operate. Michael felt like all of this was too good to be true. How did this happen so fast? Because when people see real and positive results, they want to be part of it, explained William. You planted a seed that's growing far beyond what we imagined. Emily appeared at the door, as she always did at the end of the day. Hi, Mike. Hi, Daddy. Hi, Aunt Sarah. Hi, Princess, said William. How was school today? Really good. The teacher asked me to tell the whole class about our projects in the community. And how did it go? Everyone was impressed. And you know what happened? What? Asked the three adults at the same time. Two of my classmates' parents came to ask me how they could help too. Michael, William, and Sarah looked at each other, smiling. Emily, said Michael, you're becoming our best promoter. It's because I believe in what you do. And when you truly believe, everyone notices. The depth of Emily's observation once again surprised the adults. You know something, Emily, said Sarah. You should give motivation training to our employees. Can I? Asked Emily excitedly. Yes, you can, replied William. How about we start with a short talk at the next team meeting? What should I talk about? About the importance of making a difference in people's lives, suggested Michael. That I know how to talk about. I'll tell them about the day you helped me and how it changed everything. In that moment, Michael realized the full cycle of transformation. He had helped Emily. Emily had reconnected the family had transformed the company, and now the company was transforming the community. And Emily, who had been the catalyst for everything, was now preparing to inspire others to make a difference. It was Wednesday afternoon when Michael received a call that would once again change his perspective on the impact of the work they were doing. Michael Thompson. Yes, speaking. This is Rebecca Miller from the New York Corporate Social Responsibility Institute. I'd like to speak with you about the work you're developing at Wilson Harris Construction. Of course. How can I help you? Actually, we'd like to invite you to present your projects at the next national seminar on corporate social responsibility. Michael nearly dropped the phone. How did you hear about our work? Your case is being discussed throughout the industry. A company that manages to integrate social responsibility with improved productivity and employee satisfaction is something rare. I would have to speak with my board. Of course. But know that it would be an honor to have you with us. You're proving that it's possible to do business in a truly ethical and responsible way. When he hung up, Michael sat in silence for a few minutes, processing the information. In less than 4 months, they had gone from anonymity to becoming a national reference. There was a knock at the door. Come in. It was Richard carrying a folder full of documents. Michael, I need to speak with you about the internship program. Of course. How's it going? We received 87 applications from young people in the communities where we work. That's wonderful. How many positions do we have? Initially, there were 10, but after reviewing the resumes and conducting interviews, I'm proposing we expand to 20. Michael was surprised. Richard had become one of the biggest advocates for the social projects. What made you change your mind about expanding? Richard sat down, looking more relaxed than Michael had ever seen him. You know, Michael, when I started interviewing these young people, I noticed something I'd never seen before. What? The hunger they have to learn, to grow, to make a difference. It's an energy I haven't seen in candidates for a long time. They value the opportunity more. Exactly. And it made me reflect on how many talents we're missing by not looking beyond the wealthy neighborhoods. Richard opened the folder and showed some resumes. Look at this one. Kevin Williams, 19 years old, lives in Hope Village. Created an inventory management system for his father's bakery using Excel spreadsheets that he taught himself. Impressive. And this one, Brittany Taylor, 18 years old, organized a sewing cooperative among the mothers in the community and increased household income by 60%. Michael flipped through the resumes, seeing stories of overcoming and creativity. Richard, where are you going with this? I want to propose that we create a permanent program for developing local talent, not just internships, but a complete path of training and hiring. That would be amazing. But what about the budget? I've already calculated it. The investment pays for itself in less than a year through reduced recruitment and training costs, not to mention the increase in productivity. Michael was impressed with Richard's transformation. What does William think of the idea? I haven't presented it to him yet. I wanted your opinion first. My opinion is that it's brilliant. But why do you want my approval? Richard hesitated a moment. Because you taught me something important, Michael. What was that? That business success and social responsibility aren't separate things. They're two sides of the same coin. How so? For years I thought doing good was an expense. Now I understand that doing good is an investment in people, in community, in the future. At that moment, Emily appeared at the door. Mike, may I come in? Hi, Uncle Richard. Of course, Emily, come in. I came to tell you some news. What news? My school principal wants to meet you. Why? Asked Richard. Because I told her about our projects and she got very interested. She said she'd like to form a partnership. Michael and Richard exchanged glances. What kind of partnership? Asked Michael. She didn't explain properly, but said something about using the school for community activities on weekends. That would make a lot of sense, commented Richard. We could have professional training classes, computer courses, and activities for families, added Michael. Talks about financial education, health. Emily clapped her hands. Did you like the idea? We loved it, Emily. Can you schedule a meeting with the principal? I can. She said it can be any day this week. When Emily left, Richard commented, It's amazing how she always brings ideas that make total sense. It's because she sees things simply and directly, without the complications we adults create. Michael, can I ask you something personal? Of course. Were you like this before? This ability to connect people and ideas, to see opportunities where others see problems? Michael thought for a moment. I think I always had a tendency for it, but never had the opportunity to develop it. I was always so worried about survival that there was no energy left for anything else. And now I feel free to be who I really am, and I discovered that I really enjoy connecting people and solving problems together. You know what impresses me most about you? What? You never try to take credit alone. You always acknowledge others' merits. Because it's true, no project works without a team, and no change happens without many people getting engaged. Richard became thoughtful. Michael, have you ever thought about getting a degree in administration or social management? I've thought about it, but never had the means. Why? Because I think you have potential for much more than coordinating projects. You have potential to lead organizations. I don't know, Richard, I'm very happy doing what I do, and you should keep doing it. But with more formal knowledge, you could do it on an even larger scale. The idea planted a seed in Michael's mind. Maybe it was time to invest in his own education. I'll think about what you said. Do think about it, and if you decide to do it, the company can support you with a scholarship. Really? Really? Investing in employee development is part of our new management philosophy. That night, Michael came home thinking about everything that had happened. His mother, Mrs. Thompson, was watching television in the living room. "You're early today, son." "I am." "How was your day, Mom?" "Good. The neighbor Pamela came by this afternoon." "Mrs. Pamela, what did she want?" "She wanted to know if you couldn't help her son get a job." Michael sighed. This was happening frequently. The neighborhood people had discovered about his work and constantly asked for help. "What did you tell her?" "That you work with social projects, not an employment agency," said Mrs. Thompson, smiling. "Thank you, Mom. Sometimes I don't know how to help everyone who comes to me." "You don't need to solve everyone's life, Michael. You're already doing much more than most people. But sometimes I feel guilty for having gotten this opportunity when so many people are still going through hardships." Mrs. Thompson turned off the television and looked at her son seriously. Michael, do you remember the day you lost your previous job?" "I do." "You cried the whole night. You thought the world had ended." "I remember that too." "And if I had told you back then that in a few months you'd be coordinating projects at one of the largest companies in New York City, would you have believed me?" "No." "Then understand this. God has plans bigger than our ability to see. Your job isn't to save everyone. Your job is to do your part as best as you can. Your mother's simple wisdom always managed to put things in perspective. You're right, Mom. And another thing, you can only help others because someone helped you first. Don't forget that." "What do you mean?" "That man, Emily's father, gave you an opportunity when you needed it most. Now you're paying it forward. That's how the world improves. One person helping another." Michael hugged his mother, feeling grateful to have a family that always supported him, even in the toughest times. "Mom, can I tell you something?" "Of course, son. I'm thinking about going to college." "College? What subject?" "Business administration or social management. To be able to do my job even better." Mrs. Thompson's eyes filled with tears. "My son in college, and your father would be so proud. The company might give me a scholarship." "So you're going to do it?" "I think so. What do you think?" "I think you should do everything that helps you grow and help more people." That night, Michael went to sleep with a feeling of deep gratitude. In less than 6 months, his life had completely changed, and best of all, he had discovered his true calling. End of story. Now tell me what you thought of this story of overcoming and hope. Do you believe that small acts of kindness can really transform entire lives? Leave your opinion in the comments. I love reading your sincere reflections about these stories. And if this narrative touched your heart, don't forget to like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories like this one.